Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I wanted to offer you my review and impressions of Battlefield 6. We're going to be doing this one the good, the bad, and the ugly style, but if you look at the chapters of the videos, you may notice that we have two additional ones here because this is kind of an interesting review for me. Gameplay is all going to be from weekend 1 of the beta and a nice crisp 1440p, and one thing I can say about Battlefield 6 is that it has garnered more hype than any FPS game since Fortnite. There is just an outrageous amount of hype around Battlefield 6, not only huge player numbers on Steam eclipsing the Call of Duty all-time record, tremendous amounts of people watching content, people coming in from other communities to check out this game, and it's building up a tremendous amount of goodwill. I mentioned those other communities because the goodwill is not just coming from within the Battlefield community, but other gaming communities like the Call of Duty community as well. Vince Zampella from Respawn Entertainment, who created the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, Apex Legends, and Titanfall, has joined the DICE team to help make Battlefield 6 as spectacular as his previous games, and that influence very clearly shows. There are a lot of good things to say about Battlefield 6 in this video, but we're also going to talk about some of the bad, some of the ugly, some of the burnout, and then at the very end we're going to talk about some hope. So we're really going off the rails on the standard structure today. Let's start off with the good. Battlefield 6's vibes are fantastic because it is a realistic and grounded modern military shooter. Actual, grounded, real modern warfare has returned, even if it is a sort of near-term future. These games have been doing that for a very long time. But there's no cartoons, there's no wacky operator skins, there's no goofy stuff and fake weapons. It's all very sort of real feeling, which gamers have been asking for a very long time. Battlefield 6 is a true sequel to Battlefield 4 with all of the modern improvements you could ever want. If you've played Battlefield 4, Battlefield 6 is just going to feel like a modern version of that. We've got snappier gunplay, better controls, more movement abilities, more destruction, more of everything that you enjoyed from Battlefield 4. Moving into the specifics of the game, finally, I do want to talk about the gunplay. I find that the gunplay is very polished, and it's somewhat similar to Battlefield 5 and 2042, which have been increasingly creeping towards Call of Duty style gunplay. This one goes another step forward and makes it feel a little bit more COD oriented again. Things like aim down sights time are pretty fast, recoil's pretty low, your sprint to draw time is pretty fast. It just generally speeds it up, and they have reduced the overall bloom on the weapons. I know that was a controversial thing for people that weren't familiar with that type of recoil mechanic, but the bloom is a lot tighter than it used to be in Battlefield 4 and other games like that, but it still can confuse people when you have your sights on them, but your bullets are going very slightly sideways. But overall, the gunplay is very polished. All the weapon classes feel correct. They work the way that they intuitively should, and I'm just very happy with that. I'm also very happy with the weapon customization system. We've got this point system where different attachments are worth different points. We've got a ton of different attachment slots, ton of different attachments themselves. There is a tremendous amount of variety and strategy that goes into how you kit your weapon for combat, which again reflects that sort of real-life focus on everything. Really like the weapon system. Battlefield 6's movement has been significantly improved from previous Battlefield games. Battlefield games, I always used to feel like I was kind of wading through water or like sand, like I was a little bit on the slower side, but this one has a really fast sprint. It's got a basic Call of Duty-esque kind of like knee slide that you can do. You've got your standard grappling and climbing. You can lay down on your back or prone. And one of the things I do like about it is we got rid of the weird wingsuits from Battlefield 6 that literally let you fly around like a flying squirrel. Not Battlefield 6, Battlefield 2042. The wingsuits in Battlefield 2042 that let you fly around like a squirrel all over the place. But I said Battlefield 6 because the parachute system is very generous. You can deploy that one in situations where it really doesn't make sense and travel really far, though people do pick you out of the air in this game. On the topic of movement, the new revive mechanic fits this aesthetic so well, where you reach down and grab a person and drag them back and stick them with the syringe for the revive. Not only is that, again, reflective of the theme of modern combat in this game, but it means that if you're not a medic with the instant paddle, that you can grab your friends and drag them out of a dangerous scenario to bring them back so they don't just pop up in hell on earth. The scale of combat is in true Battlefield form. Here in Battlefield 6, we have a bunch of huge maps, long sniping engagements, sort of just large-scale everything. Tons of people flooding into a point. You'll be down on the ground running. You've got 500 yards to run to the objective while airplanes are fighting up above. All that sort of classic sense of scale that Battlefield has is very much so on display here on Battlefield 6. And the game also uniquely offers a variety of closer quarter engagements in case you like that scale. You can play the domination mode, which is pretty fun. You just play on tiny versions of the maps. You can play on attack and defend type modes, where your breakpoint, I believe is what it's called, where you're only focusing on one part of the map. And the interior city map has a lot of areas specifically designed just for infantry to be able to navigate through. So if you really just want to play boots on the ground, that is not going to be an issue. Battlefield 6 has excellent map destruction that's second only to the finals. We'll talk about that game a little bit later on near the end, but the map destruction is probably the second best of any game right now, and by a pretty huge margin. There's a pretty big drop before you go down to third. You can drop rubble on people and crush them. You can blow through cover and then kill them. You can drive tanks through vehicles. You can crash helicopters into them and they destroy realistically. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and it does impact the gameplay, so it's not just cosmetic. I think that's a very good thing. And again, it feels like a spiritual successor to Battlefield Bad Company's type of destruction. I do like that there are slightly less vehicles available in Battlefield 6 than in previous Battlefield games. At least that's true of the maps and what we've been given in the beta. I don't know if that's going to carry over to all of the gigantic maps in Battle Royale and stuff like that. I will say the graphics are good, but as we're moving toward the bad section, I think the graphics are only regular good. They're serviceable, they're crisp, they're clean, they look nice. They're not particularly innovative or radical or impressive, not insanely well optimized or anything, but they are good. I'll give you like an A- on the graphics on this one if we had to do letter grades here. And I'm also very happy to hear that Battlefield 6 will have a campaign, a full multiplayer, a full Battle Royale, and what is essentially a Halo Forge mode on steroids for custom community games. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit in the very last section, but for now, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Logitech G. If you're planning to play Battlefield 6 and you'd like to upgrade your audio experience, whether you're playing on console or on PC, I'd highly recommend the A50X or A50 Gen 5 headsets. Not only do these two headsets have just outrageously good microphones that make no sense for being on a headset, they've got great audio quality, great battery life, but you can run multiple consoles, PCs, and cell phones through the mix amp all at once. So if you're a multi-gamer with a PC and some consoles and you want to listen to music on your phone, the A50X will let you do that. If you're interested in this product, you'll find links down there below in the description, and code DRIFTER will save you 5%. Now that we've done our sponsor plug, let's move into the bad parts of Battlefield 6. And by bad, I mean these are like medium bad. These are regular. I'm going to save the really bad ones for the ugly section. We were just talking about the map destruction, but I'm going to tell you the truth that I was a little bit underwhelmed with the destruction elements of Battlefield 6. It honestly doesn't feel quite as impressive as Battlefield 4, at least in terms of scale. Battlefield 4, you could drop that building, you could flood the map, you could do a whole bunch of very sort of huge scale things that were just big spectacles for everybody to see on the map. I didn't really get a feel for that in Battlefield 6. And a lot of the destruction was also kind of fixed. You can blow a hole in this wall. If the wall blows, it blows in the same way. If the building's going to collapse, it collapses in the same way. If it's going to be smoky, it's going to be the same every time. And yes, that's a gameplay element, but it's not too different than just shooting a barrel. It's not too different than just like breaking a pane of glass. It just has a preset destruction to it. So while it is much better than average and gameplay impacting, it isn't like radical or innovative like the finals, which I'm trying not to even talk about in this video, and it lacks the sense of scale that it had from Battlefield 4. Moving along in the bad section, I hope you like 50 Shades of Brown for all of your color palettes, because that's the only thing that I've seen from this game so far. I know the Battlefield franchise can do color and have gorgeous color palettes in a variety of maps, and I'm expecting some of their other maps to have more variety in color, but for now it's brown, gray, dust, depression, even like everything just looks like your stereotypical war in the Middle East. It all has that Modern Warfare 2 sort of color palette going on, which makes sense given that they brought in Vince Zappella, but I really wish we had more color and more variety on the maps and just something to look at other than just brown. My God, that's depressing. The vehicles are still a bit on the strong side. Tanks can be very oppressive, especially if there's 1 to 2 engineers repairing them. It's very difficult to do enough damage to kill them with rockets. And one thing that I noticed, and I didn't fully test this, so I could be wrong. This is not the gospel true. It didn't seem like I could disable the tank treads or the turret, or that the tanks had any particular alternative disabling points. Rather, they were just damage sponges. I do think if I hit the engine in the back, that deals a little bit more damage, but doesn't slow the tank down or disable it in a way that makes it easier for me to kill it. Helicopters and airplanes and stuff like that were also pretty powerful in this particular beta. I didn't really even get a chance to touch them. All the pilots had them all game. They were just up there in the air playing an entirely different war. But if you didn't like vehicles in previous Battlefield games, even though there are less of them here, they're still about as strong. They're still going to be about as hard to deal with. The map design, which we're going to talk a lot more about in the bad section, is a little bit clustery. Battlefield 6 and Battlefield games in general do tend to like clustery, close quarters combat situations, just true meat grinders, lots of chaos. Not everybody's in for that. A lot of people like controlled gameplay. So if you didn't like that chaotic 40 people running around with chickens with their heads cut off type of style from previous Battlefield games, it's still very much so going to be present in this one. I personally don't mind it, but I know a lot of people well, I guess I'm appealing mostly to the Call of Duty community here, do struggle with that concept, these like little meat grinders like Operation Locker. The other thing that's quite janky in Battlefield 6 is spawns. Battlefield has always had unusual spawns because it has a squad spawn system. If one person's up, typically people can spawn on them, so if you let one person on a squad get away, their whole team can be back relatively quickly. I did notice that this one was a little bit more restrictive if enemies were nearby. It seemed to not want you to be too close in proximity to enemies and less so about the specifics of the combat like previous Battlefield games. But you can still have weird spawns. And I even noticed when I was playing Domination, which is just a total knockoff from a Call of Duty mode, that it also had bad spawns. And I had a little joke to myself, well, like Domination and COD has bad spawns and Battlefield copied it, so it makes sense that Battlefield 6 Domination also has bad spawns. They were flopping around all over, trying to find a safe place for people to pop up because I was killing them too quickly. And the final thing I'm going to put in the bad section before we move down to the ugly is that the shotgun is realistic, but it's very overtuned for a video game. Usually video game shotguns are completely unrealistic. They don't do anything after about 10 feet. The pellets disappear. And as a firearms enthusiast myself, I will tell you that real shotguns will absolutely annihilate people under 100 yards, especially if you have a choke or you're using slugs or something like that. It is not like movies. Those pellets do not disappear. They have plenty of range and they will kill you from really far away. This one's realistic, so I can like respect that. But in terms of video games, that means basically everybody has an insta-kill secondary weapon that they can pull out anytime that actually outperforms the main weapon. So realism, bonus points, gameplay, we'll have to deduct some points because that is very overtuned. Moving down to the ugly section, here's some really bad things about the game. If anybody from DICE actually watches this video, these are the things that need to be focused on to guarantee that Battlefield 6 is a success. First up, number one for me, is rubber banding and connection issues. They were really wacky throughout the beta. I totally understand that there was like all-time player records being broken and a huge demand on the servers, but we were getting kind of something that happens typically in Call of Duty and even happened in Battlefield 4, which was bullet stacking. An enemy can shoot you 6 times, but due to the way the server will calculate the information, it'll notice that you've been shot 6 times before it sent you the packet, so it'll load all 6 bullets in at once, so it feels like one super bullet and you just kind of die instantly. This is not a fun experience because you can't react to it or do anything about it, and it also just makes it feel very incongruent in that there's a big difference between time to kill and time to die. A lot of times you're going to die very quickly and it'll feel like people will bullet sponge as you're shooting them trying to kill them. Whatever's causing this connection issue needs to be fixed ASAP. Moving along, I don't like that the most popular modes have no class restrictions on weapons. I feel that Battlefield is much more so a class-based game, and that certain classes should have access to certain weapons and others shouldn't. And I think in previous Battlefield games there were some generic weapons that were shared, but what I really don't like about this is that now everybody can have a sniper and a shotgun and all these crazy like assault rifles and anything you want you can make. So everybody's carrying a sniper secondary, which is very annoying because that should be on a specific and relatively limited class. Moving along, the map design is very bad in terms of overall gameplay. It's just choke points and snipers. It's absolute garbage for Battlefield. I'm sorry, I know that's very hateful. The maps that we had here in the beta were very bad. They were worse than previous Battlefield games that at least I have played, and it just seemed to be designed to funnel people into a meat grinder and not allow for a lot of variety of play. Also made for spawns to be kind of oppressive, and I just really didn't like their overall design. I wish that we could do better, but I know we have more maps coming in. I know we have the Forge mode, but what was offered in the beta did not impress me. Along with map design, visibility was often impacted by destruction and other relatively cosmetic elements. There's a lot of smoke, a lot of dust, a lot of brown. I know that there's like pinging of enemies and stuff, but I still felt that the overall player and especially enemy visibility was a little bit on the low side. I had more difficulty spotting enemies in this Battlefield game than I've had in previous ones, and I feel that that could be significantly improved. One thing that I think the team very much so needs to do is to release new and innovative game modes. What we had in the beta was just regular old Battlefield stuff and Call of Duty domination that we've had for nearly the last 20 years. Actually, I think domination started in COD 2, so a few months after this game comes out, it will have actually been 20 years. There was nothing particularly innovative or game-changing or radical in that regard, and I totally get that nostalgia and back to basics can be good, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but it felt like we really had nothing new on display. Speaking of display, the user display, the HUD, the UI, whatever you want to call it, absolute hot dog water. Game menus are stupid. I don't know why every game is doing this. All these games are building their menus just to look like Netflix or like a streaming app. Why can't we have text lists? Why can't we have things in collapsible menus? Why can't we have good UI design instead of this confusing stuff that's been plaguing not only Battlefield, but Call of Duty forever? We've really just got to get better UI on this. Finally, in the ugly section, if you're playing on PC and you've got a Windows 10 PC or a certain kind of motherboard, it requires secure boot to be enabled. You cannot play Battlefield 6 without changing your UEFI settings and enabling secure boot, which will kind of give the game more access to your computer, which is a privacy concern. I wish we had better anti-cheat that didn't violate my privacy, but yes, I turned on secure boot to make this work. Moving near the end of the video, these next two topics, well, the next one is a little bit personal, and the next one after that is going to loop it all back around to Battlefield 6. So listen to me whinge for a few minutes, then we're going to tie it into Battlefield 6. And the short version is, we're going to call this section the Burnout. This one's for me personally. I have played almost every military shooter for the last 15 or 20 years, and that's been the main focus on this channel. And I think I'm just super burnt out on the genre. My passion for realistic military shooters is just not there like it used to be. And these days I find myself gravitating toward less realistic and cartoony games like The Finals or Teamfight Tactics, or single player experiences like Baldur's Gate or Cult of the Lamb or something like that. I think I've just really sort of hit my fill of grimy, gritty, dusty brown, realistic military shooters, because I have played them for literally decades. I'm kind of looking for something new. And Battlefield 6 aesthetically is not very different than the original Modern Warfare 2, or maybe even from Battlefield 3. It feels like visually and emotionally I've kind of like taken a step back in time, and I'm once again playing the adult version of Army Men. I feel like this is the same game I've been playing since literally 9/11. I was old enough to remember 9/11. I'm dating myself here. But pretty much every piece of media and video game immediately turned into dusty brown warfare in the Middle East right after 9/11. And I've played all of that I want to play. And I'm also pretty burned out on the standard Battlefield game modes as well. That's why I was talking about the innovation. There's nothing super new on display here. And I feel like I've been playing these same modes since at least Battlefield 3. So yes, in this section, I had acknowledged to all of you that nostalgia, throwback, return to form, return to realism, no cartoon skins, an actual military shooter, giving the audience what they want and have been requesting is a good thing. That's a good thing for a lot of people, but me personally, I'm craving something new. I want some of that new, something like really fun and innovative that I've never seen before, and I don't think I'm going to get that on Battlefield 6. But in our very last section here, this one's called The Hope. I hope that I'm wrong about this. because I'm going to put some time into this game. It shows a tremendous amount of promise. At a minimum, its fundamentals are nothing shy of fantastic. It's got plenty of interesting technology to utilize moving forward. I feel like there's an almost unlimited amount of potential for this game. There's a whole campaign about which almost nothing has been revealed, and the Battlefield campaigns have been quite good. I personally loved the Battlefield 1 campaign. I hope we get something in that flavor, but that's 10-15 hours of gameplay right there. There's a Battle Royale mode that's rumored to take place in Los Angeles, and if anybody can make Battle Royale interesting again, because I burned out on that, it should be diced with Battlefield. I would love to play a Battlefield Battle Royale, or I'll call it Battlefield Royale, in Los Angeles, like duking it out over the Hollywood sign. That sounds very promising. And more than any of this, I'm also super excited about the Battlefield Portal mode, which is the Halo Forge custom map creator. Pretty much endless potential there to make community modes, fun modes, parkour modes. And if I wouldn't, it really wouldn't surprise me if Battlefield added zombies or dinosaurs or aliens or some kind of horde mode in the near future. But even if they don't, I guarantee you somebody in the community is going to make use of that Battlefield Portal mode, and they are going to make their own horde mode, and it's probably going to be really, really fun. So what we got in the beta was only a tease, like a little drop in the bucket to the vastness that this game will have to offer. I didn't really like my sample, though. Dislike might be the wrong word, but I was kind of indifferent. I feel like I got a bigger, better, beefier Battlefield 4, but nothing particularly new. I think they're saving a lot of the new stuff, a lot of the really hype stuff, a lot of the stuff that I'm super interested is going to come out later. So let's just hope that's amazing. Let's hope in the coming months that some tiny little ember of my passion for military shooters comes back, and that after more reveals and the full launch has happened, I'm going to get access to some absolutely sick and innovative game modes in Battlefield 6. Guys, that is all for my review and impressions of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.